Let's look just a little bit deeper into self-will. We believe that the understanding of step 4 in the big book is going to be based on a full understanding of self-will, where it comes from and what it really does to us. And if we can really see where it comes from and really see that left on our own resources, we don't stand a chance with it, and if we can see what it does to us, then it's much easier to take step 3, and then when we get to 4, it'll be much easier to take step 4. Looking at that little chart that you have in your handout sheet, we see what Bill referred to as the 3 basic instincts of life. To get this information, we went to the 12 and 12. And 13 years after writing the big book, Bill wrote the 12 and 12. And the purpose of the 12 and 12 on the steps was to further explain or expand on steps. And in step 4 of the 12 and 12, he talks about the basic instincts of life which create or generate this thing called self-will. And in about 2 pages, he taught me more about living and about human nature than I'd ever learned in anything I'd ever read before. He said all human beings are born with certain basic instincts of life that are placed in us by God at the time of birth. He talks about the social instinct, the security instinct, and the sex instinct. And he said the social instinct revolves around our relationships with other people. All human beings are born with a desire to be liked, to be accepted, to be respected, to be a part of the rest of the human race. And he said if we didn't have that desire, we would care nothing for each other. We would not join together to provide the things we need to survive. We would go into a dog-eat-dog situation. Complete anarchy would reign. And under those conditions, sooner or later, the human race would fail to survive. And he uses several different words under that thing. He talks about self-esteem. Self-esteem is nothing more than what we think of ourselves, based on what we think other people think of us in most cases. Personal relationships, that's simply our relationship with another human being. He talks about pride. Pride is an unjustified opinion of oneself. Sometimes we get to thinking too well of ourselves, or the reverse, we get to thinking not well enough of ourselves. He talks about prestige. All human beings either want to be accepted as a part of the group, or they want to be the leader of the group. And you know, we need leaders in the human race. Somebody's got to be the decision maker. Somebody's got to say, Mary, get over behind that tree with your club. John, get over there with your rock. Billy Joe and I'll take our spears and run this sucker through here, and we'll jump him and we'll have something to eat. Somebody got to do that. And prestige is wanting to be that leader. And usually we'll take one of 2 routes. We'll either just want to be a part of, or we'll want to be the leader of. He talks about ambitions in those areas for power, recognition, prestige, etc. Those are all God-given. Therefore, they are good. Now, the only thing wrong with that, if you want to be liked and accepted and respected by the rest of the human race, you can't just sit on your duff and do nothing. You're going to first have to find out, well, what is it that the rest of the human race expects of me? And usually that's taught to us as we grow up in different parts of the world. In one part of the world it may be to have an education. Another part of the world it may be to have a big family. Another part of the world a property owner. It could be anything. And as we grow up, we learn what society expects us to do and be, and we set a goal. Maybe the goal is for the education. Could be for a lot of different things. To reach the goal, we work and we work and we work and we work, and just as importantly, we're probably going to have to give up on some things and sacrifice. Some things we would like to do, if we do them, then the rest of people aren't going to like us if they find out about it. And I don't think we would do the work required nor make the sacrifices necessary to be recognized by other people if we didn't get some form of reward for doing that. Bill said it in his story. I had arrived. How many times have you and I set our goal, work toward that goal, and the day we successfully complete the goal, whatever it is, my God, it feels good. They pat us on the back. They even put flat boards on our heads. They hang robes off of us, and they tell us how great we're doing, and we just eat that up, and we just love it. Get the recognition, get what you want out of it, and you say, well, hell, is this all there is to it? And that causes us to set another goal. And we work and we work and we strive and we strive and we reach that goal and we get the recognition and then we set another goal. And it seems to create an insatiable desire within we human beings for more power, for more recognition, for more prestige. We simply can't get enough of it. And they're not giving it to us fast enough. And they're not getting it the way we think we ought to. So some of us begin to take a few shortcuts. We begin to do a little lying. We begin to do a little conning. We begin to do a little manipulating. We begin to maneuver people from behind their back, and the next thing you know, we end up hurting people. And then they retaliate against us, and then that creates pain and suffering for us. It's plain that a life run on self-will can hardly ever be a success, because under those conditions we're always in collision with people, places, and things. He talks about the security instinct. All human beings are born with a desire to be secure in the future. Oh, yeah, I know in AA we live one day at a time. But I also know that everybody in here has got insurance policies of some kind to protect ourselves in the future. That is a God-given instinct. If we cared nothing about the future, we would do nothing to provide the food, the clothing, the shelter, the protection that we're going to need in the future, and the next winter comes along, we're going to freeze to death. Next drought season, we're going to starve to death. All human beings are born with that desire. Now, in order to be secure in the future, we've got to first determine what is it do we need to be secure. This is going to vary in different parts of the world. Society will teach it to us. One part of the world it's $4. Another part of the world it's 4,000. Another part of the world it's 4 million. Another part of the world it's 162 stones, whatever it is that they use to trade and barter for their security and well-being. We set a goal and we begin to work toward it. And we work and we work and we work and we save and we invest and we sacrifice until finally we reach that goal. And I don't think we would do the work required nor make the sacrifices necessary if we didn't get a reward for it. The reward is what we get at the great moment of successful completion of the goal. How many of us have set the goal for the new pair of shoes, the new suit, the new dress, the new car, the new drapes, the new couch, the new home, the new piece of property? And man, when we get that thing, it does feel good, you know. Hell, for a mortgage, we'll even call in the neighbors and we'll celebrate and we'll burn the mortgage. It feels so great. Now, the only thing wrong with it, though, it doesn't seem to last very long. You no sooner get it than you look around and you say, well, is this all there is to it? Hell, her house is bigger than mine. He's driving a Cadillac and I've still got a Chevrolet. He's wearing a Brooks Brothers suit and I just now got mine down at Kmart. So that causes me to set another goal. And I strive and I strive and I gather and I bring that stuff in and I reach that goal and it's only a temporary feeling and I set another goal. It seems to create an insatiable desire within me to collect more and more and more and more of these material things. Not getting them fast enough, not giving them to me the way they ought to, so I start doing a little lying, conning, cheating, manipulating people, and next thing you know, I hurt other people. It's plain that a life run on self-will can hardly ever be a success. Under those conditions, we're always in collision with people, places, and things. Third basic instinct of life is called the sex instinct. Now, I know in AA we treat sex as a dirty word. We laugh about it, we tell jokes about it, we talk about it. Most of us don't know a hell of a lot about it. But sex is a basic God-given thing. All human beings are born with a desire for sex. Now, it may be turned off by bad happenings and bad teachings, but we're all born with a desire for sex because without sex, there's no reproduction of the human race. And if we don't reproduce ourselves, certainly the human race would fail to exist on the face of the earth. Now, in order to successfully reproduce ourselves, we're going to find the same thing is true in sex that it is in the other two basic instincts. By God, you've got to work at it. Hell, you can do more work in 3 minutes of sex, if you can last that long, than you'll do all day digging a ditch. Don't you older guys remember how it used to be when you got through with it? You'd fall over sideways, the sweat's just poured off of you, you can hardly get your breath. I don't think we would do that kind of work if we didn't get a reward for doing the work. And the reward we get is that great feeling at the moment of successful completion of the sex act, both physically and also emotionally, and it's a feeling that you cannot experience in any other way except through that particular thing. Now, the only thing wrong with it, though, it seems to be just a temporary feeling. Hell, you no sooner get through with doing it than you get to thinking about doing it again. And you get to thinking about doing it in different ways. And you get to thinking about doing it with different people. And you get to thinking about doing it in different positions. And the thing is so pleasurable, it seems to create an insatiable desire within us for more of the same. And the next thing you know, we're doing it at the wrong time, in the wrong place, and the wrong people. And sure enough, we end up hurting other people. And then they retaliate against us, and that creates pain and suffering for us. It's plain that a life run on self-will can hardly ever be a success. These three basic instincts of life, which are absolutely essential for the human race, are also the same three things that create all the problems that the human race has. Now, if we could operate on those, at God's level in those three areas, then we're not going to have conflict with each other. But since most of us operate on self-will, then we are in continual conflict with other people. Joe?
Okay. You know, as Bill said, that this is the root of all human problems, self-will. One of these basic instincts, although these basic instincts are so vital and so necessary for human life, self-will is God-given, and self-will is vital and necessary. But this same thing, so necessary and vital, sometimes they all far exceed their proper function. They get out of control and they insist upon dominating and ruling our lives. I usually like to use the illustration all the time, but like this building. We have a beautiful building we're in. It has the walls, the carpet, everything that we need to make this building complete is here. Also, within this building, we have electricity, water, gas, and some type of heat, probably. And that's vital. That's what self is. It's like the power of the human life is like the utilities in this building. Without the utilities in this building, it wouldn't be livable. And our lives are the same way. We have a thing called self-will, which is the power of our lives. These three basic instincts, our social instinct, our security instinct, and our sex instinct. Without these, we wouldn't be complete human beings. But just like this building, if we don't control these utilities, then they will end up destroying the building. Just like self-will will destroy the human life. We all have it. No one has ever been perfect with it. But it's how only God, once we understand self-will and the power in human life it is. And look about in our time on the face of this earth, how self-will has probably been the most destructive force on the face of this earth. We see the things that people have done as results of self-will. It's a very powerful thing. When we realize the destructive force of self-will in human life, we realize also the inability of we humans to control this force. Only God can control a force like self-will. So this is the proposition that we're there, and we have to make that decision. These things will always be with us. These things are necessary. We're not going to get rid of them, but we're trying to get some control of these things, and this is the root of all human problems. I mean, we can't see a problem in the world that doesn't begin here. I've always talked about a while ago about the guy who was in prison for stealing. Why did he steal? Well, he's in prison for stealing. Did he steal for security? He could have. Or did he steal to build his self-esteem? Or was it a sexual? One part of self caused him to steal. Something out of control. All human problems begin right there on that chart. Not just the alcoholics, but all human problems begin as results of misdirected instincts.
We've always got to go back to the beginning of the book and always look at what Dr. Silkworth told us. We are restless, irritable, and discontented. And we added some more words to that. Filled with shame, fear, guilt, and remorse. and our mind begins to search for the sense of ease and comfort from a few drinks. Now, if we could find a way to live where we could be peaceful, happy, and free, then our mind won't search for the 2 drinks. Left on our own resources, on self-will, we will always be in conflict with people, places, and things. We'll always be in conflict with ourselves, and we will always be robbing ourselves of peace of mind. Leo, let me see that again for just a second, if you would. If you'll notice coming out of self there is another circle that says wrongs. And it takes a new understanding of words. When we see wrongs in step 5, we've always assumed there's that list of things we've done to hurt other people. There's that list of dirty, filthy, nasty items. But the word wrongs is defined in a dictionary in 3 or 4 different ways. Incorrect judgment of other people is considered to be a wrong. A selfish, self-centered person is always filled with anger, filled with resentments, because they're not getting what they want, they're not getting their way, people are interfering with them, and they're always madder than hell. They've robbed themselves of peace of mind. Another kind of wrong is incorrect believing. Selfish, self-centered people are scared to death. They can't depend on God, they can't depend on other human beings, and if they're a practicing alcoholic now, they're failing themselves, and they're scared to death all the time. Selfish, self-centered people are always hurting other human beings. You can't keep from it. And from that, we get to experience the fear of what they're going to do. We get to experience the guilt and the remorse, because if God dwells within us, we know when we've done wrong. People operating on self-will will always display those 3 symptoms down there at the bottom. And with those 3 symptoms as part of their life, there's no way they got peace of mind and serenity and happiness. And always they end up going back, searching for that sense of ease and comfort, and they end up getting drunk. So it's not a question of whether we want to do this or not. It's a question of whether we alcoholics can live without it. And it seems as though we can't.
Okay, let's begin on 62 now that we understand a little bit about what makes up self-will. Selfishness and self-centered, that we think is the root of our troubles. That's the root of our troubles. One of these basic instincts. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on our toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation. It looks like they do it for no reason at all. But invariably we find that at some time in the past, we have made a decision based on self which placed us in a position to be hurt. We're going to find out when we do the inventory that it appears that they are always picking on us. But we're going to find out that we made a decision to satisfy one of these instincts, and we hurt them and they retaliated against us. So we troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of a self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Self-will cannot get rid of self-will. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore. We could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness. Much of wishing trying of our own power, we had to have God's help. And I think that's one of our great mistakes as humans, that we are trying to control self-will with self-will.
Trying to make ourselves better.
That's right. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we have to quit playing God. And that's all we're doing on this earth, because regardless of what we do, this is a God-directed world. It didn't work. Next, we decided here after the drama of life, God was going to be our director. He got that word back in there already, director. He didn't say suggester, he said director. He is a principal, we are his agents. He is a father, we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, but this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch to which we pass to freedom. And again, we see him going back to the same old little illustration. Remember in step 1 way back there where he said the wilderness was the foundation. So we put the foundation in. And he said on that foundation we laid the cornerstone. Up to this point we didn't know what we were building. But now he says we are building an arch through which we pass to freedom. And he says step 3 is the keystone of this arch. You know, when the arches were constructed, the keystone was the supporting stone in the middle. And he said that's step 3, so he's adding another stone to our structure. He said when we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed after we made this decision. We found the employer being all-powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. More and more we began being interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. And we felt new power flow in as we enjoyed peace of mind. We discovered we could face life successfully. As we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fears of today, tomorrow, the hereafter. We were reborn. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with thy power, with thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. We found it very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wife, best friend, our spiritual advisor. And this is a reference to the early days. They always took this step with another person. It says, but it's better to meet God alone than one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional so long as we expressed the idea, voicing it without reservation. He said, this was only a beginning. Though if honestly and humbly made an effect, sometimes a great one was felt at once. If we do this honestly and humbly, sometimes we get a great effect, but in most cases we don't. In the case of a sudden spiritual experience, we might get a great effect, but usually we don't get a great effect from step 3. If we were covering through a spiritual awakening, then usually step 3 is just a beginning. We haven't done anything. We just made a decision to do something. We don't get a lot out of step 3. Now we're going to find as we study the steps, it usually tells us what we get out of each step. If we study step 5, we're going to find out we get a lot more out of step 5 than we do step 3. Because we do more. We didn't do anything in step 3. We just made a decision to do something. It's just the beginning. So don't expect a lot of results from step 3. It is the first step in recovery, and it's just the beginning. Now, I use the illustration all the time with the guys I work with. Step 3 is just a decision. And I heard a guy say it's like 3 frogs sitting on a log. And one of them made a decision to jump. How many frogs is on the log? Some people say 2. No, 3. He didn't jump. He just made a decision. So we haven't done anything. We just made a decision. That's all step 3. And all action is preceded by a decision. And for a decision to be any good, it has to be carried out. The only way we can turn our will and our lives to the care of God is steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Step 3 is a decision to carry out those action steps.